I'm having trouble getting over whether you did this or not, as far as your confession goes. Did you, in fact, have sex with an 18-month-old?
Yes, sir.
You heard correctly. He said 18-month-old. As a matter of fact, it was his 18-month-old niece. Now, he's 29 years into a 70-year sentence. His good time date is 2041. With that, let's jump in.
Name is John Burkett, 400507.
Mr. Burkett, you are classified as a first felony offender. You're seeking a commutation of your sentence. You were sentenced in 1998 in Orleans Parish for attempted aggravated crime against nature, 2 counts. You received a total of 70 years. You do have a parole eligibility date, which has passed. That was in March of 2016. You did have a parole hearing in October of 2015. You were denied parole at that time. And your mandatory release date, that's your good time date, is November 23rd, 2041. Is that information correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. Mr. Burkett, before we speak to your mother, we'd like for you to tell us, why are you seeking a commutation of your sentence? Why are you here, and why do you think we should vote favorably for you today?
Well, I think I'm seeking it because, ma'am, I feel that I've changed. I'm not the same person who I was. And I basically feel that y'all, I can have a chance, give me a second chance. A second chance to live life how it's supposed to be lived and not do like I did before.
Okay, well, thank you, sir. We're going to ask your mother, Miss Janesetta Herbert, to tell us what you'd like us to know, ma'am.
I need to confirm that he served enough time. He is currently having a degree in the ministry. He's gentle and kind and honest. And he has overcome 2 illnesses. It's been a long time. He's an honest person. He's been good to his fellow inmates and a very respectful man. And I want him to come home. I'm sorry, I was on Zoom this morning, so to end the call, and I would receive a text message. So I'm about 3 minutes from my house, but I want him to be released. He's definitely a changed person. I want him home. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. I'm glad we were able to speak with you on the phone. Do you need me to leave the speaker on so you can continue listening to the proceedings while you're trying to get home?
Yes, thank you.
All right. Warden Grimion, is there anything you can tell us about Mr. Burkett before we start our interview?
Yes, ma'am. I just want to note that he was incarcerated since 1998 when he arrived over here in Angola. Since then, he's only received 1 DV report, and that was back in 2008, and that's pretty good. He's went through several programs, which includes sex offender treatment. What I understand, he went through all 4 phases of that. Also, anger management, substance abuse, victim awareness, and I talked with him briefly. He has received a high school diploma prior to coming in to Angola.
Yeah, thank you so much. Mr. Craig.
Yes, sir. Mr. Burkett.
Yes, sir.
Good morning. I think it's still morning. getting close, but it's still morning. I see that you've done a number of good, positive things since you've been there, and I appreciate that. And I'm having trouble getting over whether you did this or not, as far as your confession goes. Did you, in fact, have sex with an 18-month-old?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and you've been incarcerated, you took a plea bargain, and it was amended to attempted aggravated rape and aggravated crime against nature, 2 counts. You were sentenced to 50 years and then 20 years, 70 years total.
Yes, sir.
You served of that 70 years, you hadn't served half of it yet. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So tell me, and this will be all I got to say. I know everybody deserves second chances, but it's pretty serious when you ask for a second chance around your 18-month-old. Why should I trust you around a kid?
Well, sir, as I said earlier, I've changed. I've become a Christian, and I accepted Jesus into my life. My thoughts not my way. My thoughts are not the same. My actions are not the same. I don't even. Let me say this. At one point in my incarceration, I was a vice president over a club, and I had another guy who pretty much was on the same charge I was. Not on the same charge, but he's into that stuff with the kitty pictures and so forth. I fired him. And when I fired him, I got in trouble with the warden because I couldn't fire him. I'm saying all that to say I've changed. I don't do that anymore. That's the best thing I can tell you. I don't do it anymore. I don't even think those thoughts anymore. I get sick of watching other people do it, let alone hear about it.
How old were you when this occurred, Mr. Bryant?
26,
And how old are you now?
55.
Okay. Again, I want to tell you, I'm glad to hear what you just said. It means a lot to me, but I don't know if it means enough. That's all.
Any other questions?
I've got a question. How'd you get caught?
I confess
Who did you confess to?
to the police.
You just went to the police department and said this had gone on for, 4 months or something? That you were babysitting for your niece and that you had the child? I mean, you just went there to do that? Or I'm
No, I didn't go there to do that, ma'am. What happened? I'm sorry, what'd you say?
How did it happen that the police found out about this? You
Okay.
said once questioned, maybe you confessed, but how did it happen? It was a baby. Did somebody walk in on y'all? Something like that?
No, ma'am. It was a while after that happened that I confessed. More like a few months or so,
Huh?
and then I confessed.
Your conscience started hurting you, so you went to the police department and told them what you did to the baby?
Yes, ma'am.
Huh?
And then,
I got a question. I mean, in your investigation, you didn't admit guilt when you were first arrested. So, in you saying that you went turn yourself in, nobody reported.
Yes, sir.
what did your,
I'm kidding. I just.
what did
confused me.
what did your mother mean by coerced? I think she said coerced confession. What did she mean by that?
What happened was prior to my confession, I was engaged to get married, and the lady who was supposed to marry, I was going to marry, her sister was a Christian, and she was the one that led me to Christ. And that's when I confessed, because as you say, my conscience was bothering me. And my mother feels that I was coerced by the lady who led me to Christ, which I wasn't. I did it on my own. Matter of fact, I had called the police station myself a few times for them to come out before they came out. Because what happened was I would call on the phone, and then we got talking, arguing and everything, and hung up the phone, called, hung up, called the police, finally came over, and that's when I confessed to them.
Pretty.
All right,
moving.
Mr. Burkett, this application has been pending for some years now. I think you submitted it back in 2020, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And have you ever applied for a subsequent parole hearing, what we call a rehearing? Since you were denied in 16, have you ever asked for another hearing?
Yes, I did put in for parole hearing. Yes, ma'am.
And what happened to that application?
Nothing. I never got an answer to it.
An answer. Well, I'm gonna tell, and first I noticed you're a Navy veteran.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for that service. I do want to acknowledge that, you are a Bible college graduate. You've done anger management and thinking for change and some really good programs. And I made note in a letter, you're a tutor now. Are you still a tutor?
No, ma'am. They shut down the horticulture program.
Oh, well, in a letter that your mother wrote, she says your divine purpose is teaching and service. And it looks like you were doing some of that at the present. I'm going to be honest with you. The only relief that I will grant when I consider a commutation of sentence is to make somebody parole eligible. And you've already got that mechanism for relief, which is unusual, really, considering your crime. So I think we are prepared to vote. Mr. Prater will be voting first.
Yes, sir. I'm going to vote to deny this request due to the seriousness of the crime, the length of time yet to be served in your sentence, and the fact that you are parole eligible, as the chairman adequately points out. So your relief would be to apply for.
Mr. Green,
I concur for the same reason.
Mr. Tillis,
I concur.
Mrs. Stapleton.
I concur.
All right, and my vote is to deny based on the parole eligibility that you already have. Thank you for the good work that you're doing there in Angola, but write us back. I'll try to check on your parole status to see if we have that letter pending somewhere, but do write us another letter asking for parole rehearing. Good luck.
I don't have any additional information to add to this unpacking. It was, it was nice seeing Mr. Freeman, Mr. Prater, the sheriff, and Miss Stapleton, the survivor advocate. They're just meshing together real well. And the way that they were jumping in with the questions, it was nice to see, I think that they were feeding us, the audience, some information in a way with those questions. I'd like to believe that, by saying, they don't believe that he confessed on his own. They don't believe that. I think we can read between the lines. I think that somebody basically told him, you better confess or I'm gonna tell on you. People don't just go and confess in these cases. Something happened. It's the sheriff asks him, why should I trust you around a kid? And he has the prepared answer. Well, I was the head of the club and there was a guy there and I kicked him out and I even got in trouble for it because I don't. And I think the best answer would have been, you can't, Mr. Sheriff. And that's why I'm going to be registered. And that's why I won't be around children. You know, and not that it would have made any difference. And the board was respectful to him. The sheriff said, I appreciate that answer and all that and whatnot. And I thought it was sweet that Mr. Natsa kept the phone on speaker for his mother. I assume, that with these parole hearings, she didn't know when he'd be getting on, and she happened to be in the car and whatnot. But you can't get over the fact you're talking about his nephew. You're talking about his niece, 18-month-old niece. Richard has it in the notes in the spreadsheet. I'm just like, and it's like, what's going on? And like Mr. Renatza said, there's something weird with the sentencing, how he has this sentencing where, I was confused because the reason there's 5 on the panel is because these are commutation and pardon hearings. So you need 5 or at least 4. Often they go for 5. And I was confused why, if he had the parole hearing already in 2015, that's what Mr. Natsu, she's like, well, what do you want to commute? You're already eligible for parole. Now, he said that he applied and didn't hear back. I'm confused about that because there are laws around parole, and I don't think they can just ignore an application. I just paused it and tried to look through the legislation for the rules of parole application, and I couldn't find it. But what I did find, so I went on my little ADD adventure, was how much they get paid, the parole board members. And if you had any doubt as to why they're doing this, they're not doing it for money. The chairman of the board, which would be Ms. Renatza, she can't get more than $50,000. I mean, I don't know. That's obviously they're not in it for the money. A regular member would not exceed $44,000. They work a lot. They're on all the time. They're putting in a lot of hours. They're taking homework and doing research. So they're not in it for the money. And you gotta get the feeling that some parole board members, I don't know who, I haven't seen it actually, like Miss Jackson, Mr. Mirabella. Miss Jackson could have gotten a job as an advisor on any law firm of her choice in Louisiana, getting paid all in the high 6 figures. I don't know, but and instead you do this, which is probably a kind of like a thankless job. Now, once you're on the board, then maybe it's a stepping ladder to get more consulting gigs afterwards. But I don't think a lot of these board members are looking for that. I think they're in it for the right thing. So that's interesting. But yeah, I don't know why he couldn't get another parole hearing and what he's trying to get to commute his sentence. Now, his full term date is, like I said, thank you, Sir Richard, 2041. So he's got that's like a lifetime for him. So he's going to be there a while. And sadly, frankly, he's got to be. These are things you don't just do that to a little infant and become cured. People say to me in the comments section, I see it all the time, man, do you have no empathy? How do you not have any empathy? What, do you want him to be locked up forever? Look, he's been locked in for all these years. He's doing great. He doesn't. And I just look, I'm like, I don't have empathy for the man who did that to his 18-month-old niece. But I have empathy for all the potential future victims. How can you take a chance? Sometimes you don't get that second chance. You forfeit it. You lose it because you can't. You're going to play the Russian roulette with another victim. That's where my empathy lies, and I'll die on that hill. And that's it.
A vice president of a club, and I had another guy who pretty much was on the same charge I was. Not on the same charge, but he was He's into that stuff with the kitty pictures and so forth. I fired him. And when I fired him, I got in trouble with the warden because I couldn't fire him. I'm saying all that to say I've changed. I don't do that anymore. That's the best thing I can tell you.